Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me out there? All right, very good. Just want to thank everyone for coming. We had a actually really good showing. We've done a handful of these municipal drain type projects, and we never had this many people show up. So thank you for coming. That's good. The reason why we're here today is for the St. Michael's Drain project. And the reason why we had this meeting, it's a PIC, it's informal, it's kind of like an open house. And it's because we haven't, we've been doing the study, Gerard here's been doing the study, and now that the report's complete, it's online and you can see it, and we have a few here floating around too that you can read. We want to present to you, the people within the drainage area, what the report found and what we're going to be presenting and going forward with. So I'm going to give you about a little brief history lesson of how we got here and what the Drainage Act is and why it involves everyone here. So pretty simple. The Drainage Act is it's an old piece of legislation within Ontario, and essentially requires property owners to be required to maintain drainage and the water that falls on their property, being required to maintain drains so that your properties and your neighbors' properties don't flood. And to do that effectively, we have this Drainage Act, and that's the process we're going through right now. And the Drainage Act requires us to follow a set rules and have public meetings and council meetings to ensure that the residents, they know what's happening to their property, that you have proper input, and that a bylaw can be passed to fix the drain, culverts, and anything else necessary along the drain, and properly assess the landowners, which we're all here today. So this project started, I wasn't here, about in 2018. I don't know if you guys remember, it would have been with Jonathan Osborne. I believe he started it. So there would have been a kickoff meeting, and you guys likely would have been invited and probably put in some input. Since then, Mr. Routier had been doing the design and gave his recommendations as to what improvements are necessary to for the proper drainage of this area. And with the email, or with the letter that we sent out, there was a link there to our webpage that had the finalized report. And so he'll be able to speak to what exactly is going on. Mostly it is dredging, bank stabilization, repairing the banks, and there are some culverts that need to be fixed. So the process from here out would be, we would be presenting to you the report. You guys, we can explain it to you, and we can take your input, hear your input. Then we would be sending out another letter similar to the one you already got, that there'll be another meeting at the at Town Council here for the meeting to consider. And essentially that is us presenting the report to council, saying that the engineering merits of the report is sound, and that we should be proceeding with completing these works. There'll be another meeting after that, another public meeting called the Quarter Revision, where it looks at assessments, because these works are charged to the landowners, and the landowners are responsible to pay their share based on the amount of flow that they produce into the system, and then a final bylaw would be passed. So a lot of questions come down to how much am I going to be assessed. We do have an assessment schedule in the back of the report. It's an estimate of, based on current pricing for construction today and what your property would be assessed. For these types of projects, people are usually asked, well, why am I being charged? The drain doesn't, I'm not nowhere near the drain. When it rains and you're in this drainage boundary, the water does eventually make its way to an outlet. Your outlet is a St. Michael's drain. So you're responsible to ensure that the water can flow through this drainage, and that's why you're being assessed. The assessments are typically not too great, but it gets divvied out not just based off area, but by land use, and other factors associated with that. If you have a culvert or if you don't have a culvert on the drain, all these factors get contributed in, and Gerard here, he determines a proper assessment schedule. I have the report here. We do have a drawing for the people in the room, but if there's anyone meeting us online, I'm going to scroll down to the map so that we can see. Yeah, most of these are, I would say, fairly small in comparison to some of the other drainage works that we've done recently. Oh my gosh, come on. Just so the people at home, if they couldn't make it, they could see the drainage boundary. So here it is. Sorry, that should have been up while I was giving my spiel. So this is the drainage boundary for anyone at home, where all the drain goes, and it does outlet into the Turkey Creek. So based on that, Gerard here will give you a more technical engineering related summary of what this work entails, and then afterwards what we'll do is we'll have a almost like the open house. You can ask questions that you may have regarding the project, your assessments, and then we can handle those as they come up. But for now, I'll give it to Gerard.
Thank you, Mike. You did a very good introduction there. So once we're appointed under the Drainage Act, we have to investigate the existing municipal drain and establish what's required to put it back into a proper state of repair so that it functions and provides the capacity for the flows of the watershed that it serves for all of those affected lands within that boundary. Municipal drains are basically a communal project that anybody that has flows going into the drainage works has to bear a portion of the cost for the works to keep the drain in a proper state of repair. Under common law and provincial regulations, all properties are responsible to take their flows to a sufficient outlet. So the municipal drain provides that outlet for them to direct their flows into, and then they are not liable for any damages or risks of liabilities that would occur if their flows were causing problems with flooding, damages, or other issues to other properties, typically worst case along the downstream portions where you could experience flooding if the drain wasn't functioning properly and handling the flows that were contributed to the drainage works. We carried out a complete topographic survey of both the St. Michael's drain and the branch drain, then utilized our information for hard and soft bottom shots and the elevations of the different culverts and pipes and bridges along the drain to establish a proper profile to match with what the drain was originally built to, and that we utilized as establishing the amount of sediment cleanout that is required for the drain to function properly like it was originally designed to do. We also inspected the access bridges along the course of the drain, had some input from the town on needing pipe extensions to bridges 3 and 4 for widening of the roadway there, for them to carry out works along that roadway, Laurier Drive, I believe, or is it Rayom Road, access bridges 3 and 4. So we provided for the necessary repairs and improvements. There's also a bridge which we labeled as Bridge 13A, located between bridges 13 and 14 of the original works, that was added into the system to provide an access for a future pathway that the town is planning through the unopened road allowances that are located all across that area of the watershed boundary. So owners share in the cost of the works for their contribution of flows based on their use of land, size of the property, and everything. The town also pays their share of costs for road allowances that are developed all along with much higher runoff coefficients and higher outlet liability for their flow contributions. And they're also responsible for all of the other lands that are shown as currently owned by them or that's part of their lands within the watershed boundary for the St. Michael's drain and the branch drain of the St. Michael's. For any access bridge culverts that are under roadways, The typical cost sharing is 98% to the roadways under Section 26 of the Drainage Act, and then only 2% is assessed to all of the upstream lands and roads that do contribute flows that affect the sizing and needs for the proper access bridge across the road allowance to convey the flows to that sufficient outlet, which in this case happens to be the Kennard River, that is able to handle the flows that are contributed from all of the surrounding properties and areas that direct their flows through the various storm sewers, road drains, and the municipal drains that are all connected through the system there. So in our report, we came up with the estimates for carrying out all of the necessary works of clearing the brush and debris in the drain, for fixing up the access bridge culverts, and then there is the cost for us to prepare the drainage reports and administer it for the inspection of the construction works and everything when the time comes to move ahead with tendering and the actual construction at the best possible price that the town can get for doing those works. And then that total cost estimate is what we've proportioned in the assessment schedule that forms part of the report, and cost sharing based on people's proximity to the drain for benefit rates, and outlet liability based on the size of the property, runoff coefficients that apply to that particular property depending on its use, and then properly and fairly assessing the cost of all of the works to the properties for the amount of drain that they're utilizing to conduct their flows to the required sufficient outlet that's under common law and the government regulations for proper drainage and everything. So that, I believe, kind of summarizes most of what this drainage report is prepared for, and all of the rules and regulations we have to follow include the requirements of Department of Fisheries and Oceans, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, Ministry of Environment and Conservation and Parks, as well as the Essex Region Conservation Authority for protecting fish habitat and aquatic species and everything, as well as any endangered species that fall under the provincial regulations. So all of those are incorporated into the drainage report so that when the work goes ahead, the contractor and the town, everybody has to follow those specific legislative requirements that are outlined in the appendices that form part of the report, as well as the specifications that directs the contractor and people to properly carry out the works to meet all of those legislative requirements that we are now handcuffed into, making sure that we minimize adverse impacts to the whole environment of any municipal drainage projects. I believe that covers most of the bases there. If there's any input from Mike or Brian that they want to add to that, they can go ahead and provide that. And then, as Mike mentioned, we're open to any questions or concerns that you have regarding the project and the Drainage Act requirements or anything like that. And we'll try to explain and clarify that for the owners so that they can be satisfied that we're proceeding as we always have had to do whenever working on a municipal drainage works.
Yeah, so just to summarize, this is a PIC, right? So we're here to gather your input and explain to you what the project is so that you guys understand. I know it's been a while since this has come up. So that's the point of this, to hear your feedback, to understand, to get any of your comments. We'll take those back, and then the next step would be the quarter revision, which would be probably closer to the end of the year and the new year. And then there would be a few more steps in the process. So a lot of people ask, well, when's this work going to happen? When's this going to happen? Just based on the steps for the Drainage Act, we wouldn't even be able to tender this until the middle of 2024, maybe later. So the project would probably happen, hopefully, the end of 24 or 25. So that's just as someone was wondering when this would actually happen or when you would see some construction work. And the other thing was that the report is online, like I said. So if you go to www.lasalle.ca, and / drainage. The report would be there for the St. Michael's, so you could review it. I'm sure some of you here have probably already reviewed it coming in here. If you know your roll number, that's how you'll find what your assessment would be. But on that note, I'm going to close the, I guess, the online portion of this. We don't need to approach the bench. We'll come out there and you can talk to any one of us and we can hopefully answer some of the questions everyone has. Okay? So thank you, and I'll talk to you.